Hi, good evening, everyone. So today I'm with Dr. Tarok Gupta. So Tarok, hi, how are you doing from Bangalore?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
Good, good. So Tarok actually is my acquaintance since probably for last 20, 30 years. I think we started PhD at the same time in IT Kharagpur. He was in chemistry, I was in electronics department. But now he's a successful entrepreneur in intellectual property based out of Bangalore. So his firm develops patent, trademark, and all sort of intellectual property protection, both for the American startup and the Indian startup as well. I'll come back to that later. So what I'm trying to do, obviously, thanks to AI or because of AI or despite of AI, I don't know how to phrase it. What we are seeing that even if I was insisting for last 3 years that most of the IT professionals need to look beyond their profession because of the advent of AI will dent into their profession seriously. And right now that fear is very real after, first Anthropic released this agentic AI back in February that could do software development pretty much on its own with a little bit of supervision. Of course, these things will get even better. Then OpenAI challenged that, and as of that I think on 17th April, OpenAI and Infosys has signed an agentic AI collaboration uh, partnership. And you understand the wind is blowing that all the development companies are gradually, you know, I would say that gradually shifting from a human-oriented develop model to more machine-oriented develop model. And if you talk about Meta, Oracle, Amazon, you see huge amount of layoff because obviously AI is taking over. Right now, Meta is claiming 90%, Google is claiming 70% of their codes are written by AI. And what you see is that, I mean, last year probably approximately 1.3 million lost job in US. India, I think the number was somewhat like 500,000. This year is going to be even better. So anybody and everybody who is into the IT industry or sort of like related to advanced field, all of them are feeling the pinch that AI is gradually replacing their skills. Is that gloom? Is that dark? I always asserted it is not that dark because I'm using AI for my business for last 3 years. And I've built a practice out of AI, and it's a very good thing. Actually, it will free up a lot of your time. You can do a lot of business. So one side of the story is AI is taking your job that you are in today. Other side is if you can use AI successfully, if you are interested in building a startup, you have a glorious future awaiting for you. You can actually do very, very well. Now, as a result of my consistent message in my channel, both in LinkedIn and in Facebook and YouTube, I received a lot of requests. Many of them have heard of startup but don't know how to start a business because most of them is coming from middle class Indian background. And obviously, everything they did is how to pass an exam and then how to get a job and then how to survive in a job. Beyond that, how to make money other than what is being paid as a salary is beyond the scope of most of the people understanding. Even most of the people don't know how to open a company, forget about the intellectual property patent or anything. So obviously, they're afraid, literally afraid, but said, okay, can you tell me something like, how to start thinking about it? What are the serious steps? I said, okay, fine. I'll create a series of webinar and try to do as much because obviously I'm mentoring a lot of startup for last like 15 years. I'm official mentor in India, in Middle East, in US for a lot of incubation. I've been doing this and I have no problem in spending my time and I try to guide you a little bit as much as I can. So what I'll be doing today is that I'll be giving you a brief overview of what it needs to be done. And then this is the first part of my seminar where I'll focus on intellectual property. Why intellectual property focus first? Because this is probably the least understood of all the startups. Because most of the people that I'm addressing to today, they're highly educated. They understand English perfectly well. They understand, most of them understand the language of science and mathematics. And even doing that, they will be jobless. Why? Because obviously AI is going to do much better physics, chemistry, mathematics than any engineering. I mean, I am using 5.0 model and in OpenAI, and it already does much better physics and math than I can do. And that essentially means probably 99% of the people, for 99% of the people, and the people in STEM is going to be true. Now, it means that displacement of your job, but it also means opportunity for you. That's what I'm going to talk. And that opportunity opens up with patenting your ideas. Because now, if you have an idea, because let's say you are in a payment processing field, because you are in a logistics supply chain, because you are working in a scientific area, because you are doing in organic synthesis, because you are working in new protein development or biotech, everywhere there is a scope of doing business, and people does mistake, and I'll come back to the mistake, because most of the people even don't understand what is the difference between inventor and patent owner. Even that part is not clear to many of them. So every time I say, oh, no, 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 I'm a patent owner, so can I do a business? I said, okay, tell me who owns your patent. Is it your university or you? Most of the time, so what is your university? I said, then it doesn't matter whether you are inventor or not, because your university owns the patent means only university can do business. Of course, university can license to you, it's a different issue. They can. So we'll talk about that. Now, so since Tarok is here, so Tarok, let's do a, so again, let me paraphrase the entire thing. You want to start a business start with an idea. Let's start with it. Now, two kind of ideas. One is a business idea, another is a deep tech idea. Now, for most of the Bengali people, doing a business startup is tough, because if you want to do business startup, I can tell you, logically, you should not doing that thing. At least you have a sort of a budget between 30 to $50,000 or near about 30 to 50 lakhs rupees. And I tell you why. Because in business startup, if you want to really raise the fund, you have to show some business traction of your idea. And then that takes like at least 50 lakhs to 30 lakhs of your own money. On the other hand, if you're a scientist, if you're an engineer, like most of the Bengalis are, they actually can start a startup with a zero money. But then they have to spend some amount of money, or even government will give them the money for patenting, which is a good thing about both in US and India, to start this thing. So first you have an idea, you have to patent that idea after doing market research and everything. Then you actually go for deep market research to figure out whether you want to make the business or you want to sell the patent. If you think that instead of selling the patent, and I'll come back to the details, like, making the business is profitable, then you make a startup. Otherwise, you don't. It is a wrong idea that if you have an idea, you have to make a startup. So in a deep tech, if you have an idea, you can also make a money out of patent only. You don't need to go to the deep tech. But deep tech, making a deep tech is the next step, is when you see that you can make even much more money, and then selling the patent is a problem. So it's another path. So I'll come back to all of that. And in fact, this is the first of 5 series seminars. So first one I'm doing IP. I'll also do how to raise fund. I'll also do how to do the market research. I'll also do how to make a successful proof of concept and pilot. But today Tarok is with me. So my first priority is basically to introduce you to the concept of intellectual property. So Tarok, my first question is, and I know that you have a PowerPoint. Whenever somebody has an idea, and talk about a business idea, talk about a university professor or a PhD student, let's say is an idea in chemistry. I mean, I know that you are a PhD in chemistry, and he feels that idea has a value, right? What he is supposed to do after he thinks that he has an idea and he wants to commercialize it? Tarok, you are not audible. We can't hear you. Correct your mic. No, we can't hear you. Your mic is not working. Okay. While Tarok is fixing, let me share my screen, and Tarok, you can continue to fix. Let me share my presentation then.
Okay.
Now you are back, you think?
Yeah, I think so.
I think you need to improve your voice.
I think the full volume. You can hear me.
Little less though, but it should be better. But anyhow, let me share just 2 slides and then I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
So basically, this is the startup launch path. First, you have an idea, you protect your idea, because once you start discussing your idea, it's gone out. Then you have to research the market. You can actually do while protecting the IP as well. I mean, you file the patent, you spend the money only after you assured of the market. Then you try to build a POC, then you raise a fund and start LLC. Sometimes you can start LLC after protect IP as well. But I would say that usually even before you start a company, you start figuring out who can give you the money. So I prefer this roadmap, but number 5 can be after the number 2 as well. Typically, this number 5 that I've given should be before 3 of this, but it doesn't matter. We'll talk back to that. And then, let me see. Okay, so Tarak, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just think I was getting frozen. So basically, I will come back to the other aspect of the patent and how to build the company. But before that, again, let's get back to Tarok, for which we have been waiting. Okay, so Tarok, can you hear me now?
Yes, very clearly.
But I don't think your voice is very clear.
Yeah, because full volume.
You throttled to full volume. Very good. So Tarak, the first question is that let's say somebody in the university, somebody in a company, working in a good engineering company right now, they have an idea. And as everyone is feeling the pinch because of AI, the job situation is obviously very bad. And on the other hand, AI is opening up a lot of new opportunity, right, on this thing. So tell me, like, how they are supposed to proceed after that.
I think the first thing that they have to get the idea converted into the patentable invention. So look into that. If the idea is patentable, and then you have to frame like this: if the idea is materialized step by step, how it will work, and then definitely go for a patent writing. If it is in India, you will go for a good patent lawyer to draft this patent, and for that they have to come up with this idea, and then how the idea will mature into a process or product, and then with the help of the attorney or agent, file a provisional or non-provisional, whatever the situation or whatever the maturity of that idea, and first fix that. So that will be the first step to constitute, and then complete their first step to I will say to protect their idea and also the invention, so that they have the right to exclude the others from the practicing or commercializing in future.
Well, I mean, I think the reality is a lot more complex than that. Typically, if you have an idea and if you think you are new, 99% time the chances are that the idea is not new.
Yeah.
Somebody must have published it in academics or it has patented. Now, I can tell you also this truth based on the studies. 98% of the patent in US and India are actually invalid, because for last 15 years, I have worked on the patent infringement and invalidation a lot. And most of the patent are actually invalid, but don't get scared by that. Actually, what happened is the filing a patent can be anything between $5,000 to $20,000, maybe $50,000, depending on what you're talking about. Can be less, even $2,000. But infringing a patent, making a patent invalidation cost you $500,000. So once you get the patent, even if that idea existed beforehand, let's say that patent is grossly invalid, even then it has a value, because even to make it invalid is more than $500,000, $1 million job, because it goes through IPR process in every country and it's not easy. So what I suggest usually to all the founders is that even if you have a patent, first thing, I mean, if you have an idea, first thing, figure out that today, because of the AI, it's very easy. And that's why I say that a technology like an atomic energy can be a disaster if it is used to make a nuclear bomb. Now, let's say AI is accelerating the layoff, no doubt. So you're losing job. And, this is happening. No matter what kind of noise you are hearing and there, that is written on the wall. But what is you are not hearing is that a lot of people are making a lot of money in AI. So one of the best thing you can do is that you use your AI, because today there is a deep search in both in both in Gemini as well as OpenAI, where you can look into the patentability of your ideas. Actually, they will give you the exact idea what is, how to shape so that is patentable. So very easy. You can easily figure out. And then second thing you can figure out is what is the market value of your idea. That also AI is going to give you immediately. You can easily find it out. So once you see that your idea has a market value, and you can do your own job, which is basically that. And again, market value is a very, very relative term. It can have a market value because one can make a startup out of it. Like you can make a startup out of it, or you can actually license it to the AI, into another company. So remember, patent is like a property, personal property, like your house. You can sell the house, you can invite others to live in your house. Why? Because you can lease the patent in the same way. So that's why it's called intellectual property. And then second thing is, there can be other larger company who will need your patent. Why they'll need your patent? Because most of the large company are always through some kind of patent infringement lawsuit. Just to give you a very good example, what is not known to most of the Indians, and I can tell you dearly when I didn't know before 10 years back, Google spend equal amount of money to protect their intellectual property as that to then invest into R&D. Remember, the Google R&D budget is equal to their budget to protect their intellectual property litigation and everything. Isn't that funny? That basically every large company, they spend as much of money to invent, that much of money to protect the invention. And that I'm not saying only to Google spending the money to file the patent, but they buy also a huge amount of patent in order to protect themselves. So large company, actually, once you make your own patent, it become a personal property. And difference is, see, everybody knows about the real estate property. In real estate property, let's say in Calcutta or Bangalore, a 2 crore house. In order to get a 2 crore house, minimum investment is 1 to 1.5 crore. Maybe because of the property value appreciate, you get a 50% bonus maximum. And intellectual property, on the other hand, you may spend $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. And I think Tarok Farm does a fantastic job to do it at a lower cost. But again, some of them patent can be expensive. So basically, it's like 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 3 lakh rupees of investment, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 investment. But if you actually did it properly, that is, you do all the investigation, eventually your property value, that is your intellectual property value, can be 100 times, like $100,000, $200,000, $500,000, 1 million, depending on that. In fact, I sold a lot of patent from my company and other stuffs. And I think the first one I sold it as $40,000. That was a long time back. I think that was like 13 years back. 13 or 12 years back. And then also I'm not directly done selling, but I have participated in buying and selling of the patent in some process. And highest I did is like $3 million. And then typically I also see that 300,000, 200,000 buying and selling is very common in patent world. And most of the time it happens because some company got a lawsuit. So in order to protect, they actually buy those patents in order to shield themselves. So yeah, so Tarok, now go ahead. I don't know much about the Indian situation, Tarok. So you can illuminate like in India what's going on, because right now a lot of students in IIT, ISM, IIM, they are making a lot of startup. They have a lot of ideas. So how do you suggest them to go around it?
I think a lot of this problem is about the ignorance about that what you have just mentioned for the last 15-20 minutes, that why the patent is important. And as you mentioned, the novelty starts, and I'm not going in depth. But if it is a new idea, and if you think that there is a business coming up and there is a possible to sell this idea or the process or the product, then definitely they should go for a patent. But in India, the issue is the money first. Because in universities, if in the IITs and other universities, the funding is less, and most funding is going to the R&D. And as you mentioned about the Google, that half their funding about the R&D and the funding about the protect their innovation in form of the patent is equal. But the scenario is not in India, because the faculties got the very small amount of the money they have to manage for the lab and R&D, and less importance on the patent. But I will say, there's equal importance, because you are inventing something, and without protecting that, that means you are losing your interest, definitely. So that's one thing that very much I will say need to improve in India, obviously. situation is better, but is not actually the good. I will say better, but it could have been better if they can utilize the funding like that. Second,
I have a very specific question
yes.
here. So the problem is that when a student is doing PhD or a professor is doing this thing or somebody is working in a company, it's the same situation, right?
Yeah.
So for university or PhD student, obviously all ITs have their own patent attorneys. So usually they can file for that university. But the problem is in that case, university become the owner of the patent.
Exactly.
They are not the owner of the patent. So you cannot do business with that patent unless you license it to yourself, which means even on your own invention, you have to pay for the patent right?
Yes.
Which sucks, but that's how the capitalism works. Because you have done research on public money or the university's money, so university owns the patent, you don't own the patent. Now, I tell you the process in US process I know very well because I've gone through many times. I am not sure about the Indian process, which looks to me very clumsy because a couple of times I started licensing patent, and I did license patent from both IIT Mumbai and IIT Kharagpur. It's not very uniform. It is a little bit of a trouble to navigate into that water. So in US is very clear. In US, basically, let's say you are a PhD student or a professor, you have an idea, there is a patent invention disclosure, basically there is a commercialization unit in every university. You go there, they ask for your disclosure, you give the disclosure, and then based on their own search, the university actually patent it. Okay.
Yeah.
Idea on everything. And then if you actually open up a company, then university license it back to you. Now, what happens is if once you do that disclosure, then in Maryland, in Arizona, in California, everywhere, the standard is same. Once you have the publication, once you have the patent generated by the university, and you can theoretically license that, and then you can apply for a commercialization grant. Sometimes university gives a small grant funded by the state government. Let's say $20,000. They give you the grant to open up a company to license your patents. Actually, university paying for itself to create all the marketing plan and everything that you need to do so that you can apply for a angel funding, okay, which is a seed funding you need. Now, I will have a very separate presentation how you raise the funding both in US and India, because people think that you have to go for the angel funding. For deep tech, that's not true. In deep tech in US, there are state government fund, federal government fund, departmental fund, there are foundational fund beyond even the angel funding. Okay, angel funding is required if you're doing mostly business startup. In deep tech startup, no. You have a lot of government avenue too. There are SBI and many other ways. So what is the situation in India? Because in India, I think that most of the time people get scared about filing the patent on their own because they don't know how to raise the funding. Now, one thing I know that there are a lot of Pradhan Mantri Yojana and all kind of things. There are a lot of Udyog Yojana and startup funding that scheme that government has created. Government has created a lot of center of excellence, COE, in incubation center like IIT Kharagpur, ISI, for example, has a COE for data science. In a stress. So I know that you have traveled to a lot of those universities. Can you tell me something about that? What's going on there?
I traveled the IIT Bombay and ISR Kolkata. Both are having, as you mentioned, that incubation center, and they are inviting the people who are having the knowledge or wish to have a startup, as well as their own students and faculties are making the startup companies. But the issue is same that the patenting and all those things, the knowledge is less. Second thing, if they are going to filing for a patent, suppose that the idea is novel, even the funding is very less, so that we know that you already mentioned that to get a patent is not like the filing fee only. The government diminishes the filing fee for the MSME, for the startup, for universities. But after that, it's patent drafting, a whole lot of money. After that, patent grant, in between office action. Even after that, to maintain a patent for every year, I will say that renewal charge. The second thing I will say, after that, the faculty used to ask me, Tarak, I will have a patent application. I will even sponsor myself for the patent drafting and patent filing. After that, so what? So what? There's a problem that there is no commercialization as it is, as you mentioned in US. There is a scope of the commercialization. There is a platform that who is going to buy this patent. There will be some handshake. Okay, these are the parties, the companies, they need this particular patent in their portfolio, and the monetization and evolution of the patent this mechanism doesn't exist. So that's why I will stop. I will have a professor. I will definitely, I will apply for a patent. It will go to my student's CV, and also it will be just add up to my resume. But after that, there is no way I can further think of the monetization as well as commercialization of the patent. And there actually is a big stoppage, a big stopper is happening in India.
No, okay, so look, I mean, one thing I know that right now a lot of central government funding is available in all those incubation in ISI, IT Kharagpur. In fact, if people write to me, thankfully, I know the incubation head of ISI, IT Kharagpur, and also in IIM Kolkata. But because those are mostly Bengali friends, suppose. But in other way, I can tell you that they are struggling for a different reason. One of the reason is, as you rightfully mentioned, that professors and students are not aware how to raise fund, how to approach to a startup, how to protect their intellectual property. So what I figured out in IITs like IIT Mumbai, IIT Mumbai is much better than other IITs because they started commercialization much before. So they are actually a lot more organized compared to IT Kharagpur. This is my experience. Now, what happened is that, see, there are two things as I'm telling you. Professors and students are doing work, but the patent is being owned by the university. Now, it doesn't have to be that way. And same thing in a company. So you're working in a company, you have an idea, you can make a patent for your company, but then you don't own that. So tomorrow when you are laid off, that patent has no value to you. And this is what happens. Okay. This is what happens. This is what happens when you actually file for a in company. So, and that is why what I'm saying is, whenever you have an idea, and again, I will tell you to be ethically truthful, and you don't want to give that idea to your university or your company, and you can, by the way, no law stops you from doing that. Because idea is yours. As long as you are not using company resources and you are working on your own time and you are developing your own intellectual property, it is legally 100% all right. Because 99% startup in the world, their idea was developed by the founders who are working for other company, but they did not give away their intellectual property to that company because they thought their idea, their intellectual property has a very high value. I can go on and on like how many of these things. In fact, entire Silicon Valley is based on that concept. You see that people are defecting from their original mother startup, creating their own startup. Why? Because the founders have the idea that they don't want to sell it to their employee. Okay, employer. Unfortunately, Bengalis are not very commercial minded. They are more into Rabindranath, so they don't pay much attention to what's going on. And now the fact is, as AI is that, pushing in them into the corner, now they're forced to. Otherwise, I think no way they would have done that. They would have think that there is a good job in a company for 30 years. There'll be good life with all the social parties and social gathering, and life will go on and go on. But no, this is capitalism. Life doesn't go on like that. You are on your own sometime if the market has a storm. And currently, because of the AI, it's not a storm, it's a hurricane. Okay, it's a hurricane. It's like a tsunami that's going to completely clean out almost every tree. No matter the trees are small or large, every tree is going to fall. It doesn't matter where do you stand. So anyhow, so coming back to that, Tarok, the other thing is that from your Indian experience, and again I'll share my US experience under the same thing, is that why do you think people are not finding their money to invest into the intellectual property? Because you see, everybody in US, at least the people that I talk to and I deal with, they know the value of the patent, because they know that for the patent, if they spend couple of $1,000s, it will be couple of $100,000 if it is a good patent and one approved, right? Even if they don't go for a startup, they can sell it out to the company that needs it. And there are many other companies. As I told everyone that I have been involved in a lot of patenting trade. So why do you think this awareness is not there, that the way people are investing into the real estate, and many times they make money, many times they lose money, and many times it's highly risky. Their 50 lakhs, their 1 crore rupees get stuck. And I'm talking about many people in Bangalore, Pune, they invested into spurious real estate project and got stuck with 50 lakh, 100 lakh. Some cases they have made crores of rupees, some cases they lost money, like it happens in Bangalore and everywhere. Same thing in US as well. And why they then invest couple of lakhs into intellectual property in their own field where they think they have idea and they can sell it out and make a couple of crore? Because investing into intellectual property, they can actually make a crore. The more amount of money than in real estate by spending at least only 3 or 4% of that money. So why do you think this awareness don't exist in India? Whereas in US, it does exist very well, especially among the Americans. It will be very surprised to know that many of the Americans hold so many of the patents. Sometime, currently, I'm just giving an example. I'm advising a local startup in Maryland. The guy used to work in a grill company. I'm talking about the gas grill. He had an idea and he, again, thought that it's so worth that he doesn't want it to give it back to his company. And by the way, he used to work for a very nationally reputed grilling company. He came back and he says, no, I'll make my own patent. So he's patented to a patent his idea and started his own company. He has made a couple of stuff and business. So in US it's very common. You have your idea, you invest into that, making a patenting, you actually build a prototype and go make a startup. Why do you think it doesn't happen in India? What is the reason? Is it because in India it's a very kind of a middle class umbrella, middle class security problem?
Definitely the monetary security problem first, because I will say the 3-4 problems here, not a single one. One is the big problem, the mechanism of monetization. As you mentioned, I have an idea. I know it's patentable idea. I searched about the novelty, all these things in background. First, actually, I will get the patent. I have the money. But so what? Next, actually, who will be the buyer and how I will sell? That means, suppose that I will have a good patent in chemical or actually the polymer, and that is very near to the company that the polymer companies in India and as well as the global MNCs. But how to approach them? Why they will be interested? And where particularly my patent invention fit to their portfolio? That actually the idea.
All of this question today, AI can perfectly answer. There are deep search in Gemini, there is a deep search in OpenAI, and they can actually get all those questions answered.
I know, but they don't do this type of research first thing. Though they know that, I think that Gemini, they know that every day you in Copilot, but this type of thinking, Gemini can help, Copilot can help, ChatGPT can help, but you have to think your brain that how we'll monetize, and the thinking should begin before. And second thing, in a faculty where there is a germination of the new idea, why is happening? All the research institutes like the IITs, that ISAR, all these things about, also other good institutes are there in India. What is happening? Faculty is telling, okay, you have to prepare 5 papers, internal papers, who can prove, and submit your PhD. After that, forget, you have to go for the postdoc. Problem is like that, in between, they're losing the novel, got some good ideas that is patentable.
No, this is a very good pickup, Taruk. So let me pause you and tell the student who are doing PhD.
Yeah.
So when I did PhD, I did not think of a postdoc. In fact, I was thinking of making a startup because I was working on building model that time for optical networking. And I know that startup will need the model because that time the boom in optical started right back in 1999. And so that the people should know what I did once I was about to graduate 6 months back. I wrote to Kanwal Rekhi, who is one of the topmost VC in US. Right now he is, but that time he was like a medium scale VC, but a very still famous one in Silicon Valley. I wrote him directly, just said, this is my idea. I have done PhD. These are my publication. I think this is a very useful for currently optical industries. If I want to do startup, what do you suggest? And by the way, he is a very, by that time itself, he was a Kanwal Rekhi was a billionaire. Right now, he's my also friend in LinkedIn. He told that you are still a student and I don't think that you can make a startup, but I invested into a startup who need your technology. So come to US. And in fact, his company issued my first H1B, just to let you know. So I didn't think of to go for a postdoc. By the way, I got some good postdoc offer as well, but that time we were in a very hurry to make money in startup and stuff like that. And in US, that culture is there that people, when they're doing PhD, many of them want to do their own startup. Now in India, it is coming, by the way. I will not say it is not coming. There are many students. I'd say that my reaction is a little different because I'm seeing that from IIT Mumbai, from IIT Delhi, from IIT Madras, from IIT Hyderabad. I'm actually, because I'm well connected in LinkedIn, I get a lot of message from the student doing PhD, and they want to actually make a successful startup out of their PhD. But it is less common among the Bengalis than this, because everybody is looking for postdoc job. Basically we call it bharar pal, or the heart of the ships.
Yeah.
So basically we'll follow the ships. Wherever everybody follows, they want to follow. So there is a bit of a not ability to retake the risk. In fact, recently I was very, very surprised to see a student writing to me from actually IT Hyderabad, who's working on battery technology, new kind of battery technology. It's very difficult, and he wants to produce it in India. So I was trying to guide him as much as I can. So this is happening, but I think the more things should happen. Because what is happening is now, even if you get a postdoc in US, you can still have a job life. I'll not deny that. That is still a very viable, especially in biotech and in chemistry and many other fields. Nothing wrong on that line either, to go for a postdoc in US and make a career after PhD. But I think right now Indian government are giving a lot of money to the PhD student to make a startup. So what do you say about that? Why people are not still taking the offer from Indian government to stay back in India and building their own startup?
Yeah, it's like the mentality, as you mentioned also, I think during this discussion, that's the mentality, because people fast going for a job security. And definitely it's a false security, because many of the reasons that other podcasts also mentioned. But people will go for okay, I need to have a job, and startup is very much uncertain. I don't know if the job is uncertain or startup is uncertain, they can't answer. But that's why the first thing they do, even during the PhD, I will say the faculties don't know, some of the faculties, obviously not, that what is the difference between a publication and patent publication. They think that, okay, I've applied a patent published, I'm very happy. But make the patent grant and make the monetization, this process, we need good mentor. Professors are good mentor for the technologists, but this is a whole new ball game.
I absolutely agree. Most of them don't know how to make the intellectual. Now, you actually brought a very good point, and I applaud you to bringing that point, that most of the people don't understand which is the most insecure today, job or the startup.
Exactly.
And this question they will not, I would say, ask to themselves till they experience it. See, sometimes things are not taught in the school, not in the book, but lessons of life, let's say. I learned it very quickly being in startup in US when my first startup belched out, and I share that experience with everyone. But I think in India, what happened is there is a false sense of job security that is being spread, which doesn't exist. Because, see, the problem in India is that the government job is protected by constitution, which is not true in US. In US, government jobs are not protected, right? And even in India, if you work for Tata and many of the Infosys, TCS, many people are working more than 20, 25 years. Still, TCS started laying off after 20, 25 years. When Infosys doesn't lay off, I mean, there's not a layoff culture in Infosys startup. They're like a semi-government organization, very few. So, but the question is, as we are approaching the age of AI, which is definitely that paradigm, that job security paradigm no longer exists, because a lot of people in TCS, even after 20, 25 years, Accenture, I mean, I have many people writing in Accenture and TCS, in Infosys, after 20, 25 years, they are being laid off or squarely. So do you think that this culture of startup, culture of patenting ideas, culture of making money out of patenting and intellectual property did not exist because people has a false sense of, not false sense, I would say that a sense of job security that followed first a Nehru-wide culture and then a culture of outsourcing that has also given a job security for a lot of Indians?
Definitely, that Prabhav is there. If you have to change the society, you have to change yourself first. So it's like that, changing this mentality. Definitely, as I mentioned, that there is a lack of monetization mechanism. There is a lack of the education, proper education in the intellectual property, and up to this patenting, the idea capturing. And you mentioned rightly that some of the good hub like the IIT Bombay, even IIT Madras particularly, doing good, capturing these new ideas and going to the mushrooming or this. But the basic problem obviously is in the brain, where we think of that if there is startup, lot of uncertainty, we will deal with, or to a good not a good job. Get a job first and they settle for the 5-10 years, then we'll come back, and they will never come back. So what will happen, is a vicious circle.
So Tarak, one thing I will tell you. So I think you have a PPT you wanted to share. Can you give a quick roundabout, because I think I will share your PPT to everyone. So let us share that PPT. Maybe you give it in 5 to 10 minutes, and then we can go back, because I think there is a value to organize presentation as well.
Yeah, I'm just sharing my entire screen. And can you see the screen?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, this is a very short and very high-level presentation. That what.
Farooq, can you adjust your the dialogue screen, because when you're sharing, your dialogue screen is coming. Just show it to somewhere else so that it doesn't disturb you. Thank you.
Is it okay? Okay.
Fine,
so
go ahead.
In this presentation, I will say that, as I mentioned, that invention, how it can be protected, is like the answer is like the patents, and definitely is like the technical. So obviously, is a reward to technical solution. Whatever your technical solution, if it is a patentable, go for the patents. And intellectual property, so far, Dr. Biplav and me only discuss about that patent, but there are so many intellectual properties like that other than patent, trademark, design, and trade secret, where people know the patent, that one of the main intellectual property where your invention is captured.
It will be good if you give an example where people go for trademark, where people go for design, where trade secret, where patent.
Okay, patent means actually if you have a process, new process that is patentable, or I will say that a new product that doesn't exist before, and a new composition. So then you go for a full-fledged patent. And when you have a brand name, or actually you want to get the good out of your brand or the company, or I will say the valuation, then you go for a trademark. And trademark is two types: the word mark, and another is a device mark. That means, suppose there's a Coca-Cola, that how actually the Coca-Cola is written, that cursive letter is actually a device mark, but the Coca-Cola itself is a trademark. And trademark is like a 10 years tenure, where patent is a 20 years tenure. And design means is the aesthetic look. That means you have a product, and how the product looks from the outside, what is actually your eye catches as it is. So it is not a very, I will say, the very much strong intellectual property protection, but design is also a kind of intellectual protection from the aesthetic or outside look. But the trade secret is intellectual property, but it is coming to the organization with the definitely agreement to the inventors, all the employees, so that whatever inside the new things or new invention, it will kept with them. That is called the trade secret, and very risky this is, obviously. So patentable invention. So as Dr. Biplav also told, that what is the condition of the patentable invention? How do you know your invention is patentable? To test, there are 4 gates you have to cross through. First is novel. That means the new idea that has been not disclosed publicly. It was not exist before actually you have found, or you have already every culture to that. It's called novel.
Just pausing Tarok for one moment. So if you have an idea, this is just I'm giving you for my advice.
Yeah.
And you believe that you don't want to disclose it to your company, meaning you want it to be yours, not your company's. First thing to do, you should not communicate that even to any of your colleagues using an email. Definitely. Even if you are communicating to a patent attorney, you will do so only using an NDA, non-disclosure. You have to be, that's a must. You have to sign in non-disclosure, then only you communicate. Thirdly, you cannot even disclose it to your wife in a WhatsApp chat or in an email. So if you do that, it will be a public disclosure, and then you are immediately disqualified for patenting if your patent comes to invalidation. Now go ahead, sir.
As I mentioned, as Dr. Biplav mentioned, that means no type of proven public communication is entertained in a novel. Before that, it goes for the patent. Second thing is inventive. That means your idea should not be a mere improvement. or mere admixture of the two property or a slight improvement than what is existed before. That means a person in the common art, like that I am a chemist. If a chemist like me can understand is A plus B plus C is equal to D, then A star plus B plus C star will be D star, kind of thing. So that should be an inventive step along with the novel. And both steps particularly captured under section 102 and 103.
To the point of your discussion, explain it to the people. Let's say somebody has got a new chemical compound, a new formula that doesn't exist. Can any chemical formula be patented, or it will be considered a product of nature?
It will be considered as an invention if that even slight change of the composition can give a remarkable or as a sufficient change of the property or outcome.
But can you patent a molecule, or you can only patent a synthesis of that molecule?
Both. You can actually new synthesis can be patented if it doesn't exist, and even I will say composition to make a molecule or a molecular composition itself is a patentable, but you have to qualify novel and inventive both.
Why? Okay. I'm just like curious about it.
Definitely, and it should be useful. Obviously, this is the one of the thing that we need, so that you qualify for the novel is inventive. So, but it is a patentable is useful. That's why it's called the innovation. Invention is a novel, but usefulness give it another level. It is called the innovation. And the last one is the eligible. So it should be a mental concept to how it will work. It's called the workability to the patent. That means, suppose that we make a new machine today and it is a novel, is inventive, but also you have to disclose how we can make the machine step by step, or a process of a chemical compound to make. What is the step-by-step process to make? I say it is a process for the catalytic process. It will not help. Step by step, with each step will have to guided by the justification to ultimately reach to a novelty. So practical rule, don't publish, as Dr. Biplav also mentioned, don't publish, don't disclose before you write a patent. And it is a US utility patent path, how it is been done. First is a search and capture. I'm going a little bit faster. And there are two options going for the provisional. That means actually without claim. Claim is a section where actually in a patent we capture the actual invention. But if you are in hurry, and definitely if you think of that you have something to add to the patent, more granularity, and you have that need more time, you secure a date, first file a provisional, within 12 months, you file an actual patent or complete patent. And then it will be a fulfilling, that means, okay, claims withdrawing, you can file a complete patent within 1 year. And after the patent filing, automatically it will go for the examination in US. And then it will be published after 18 months from the first priority date or from first date of application, like provisional. And then it will published after 18 months. Meanwhile, the patent examination will start. And then there will be office action. That means the examiner will have some question to you, and the more clarification, they will ask for the justification, and they will ask for the some more proof, more emphasis. Ultimately, there will be a ground of that, I will say that compromise, I will say. The patent office will say, okay, we are ready, and we will say that, okay, we are ready with that claim. And then after the modification, it will be a grant and maintenance. And after the grant of the patent,
one more thing.
Yes, please.
That is related to the provisional, right? So my experience is that there are two kinds of patent: idea patent and practice patent. So idea patent is like you intend to translate your idea into technology. But you don't have the technology yet. And then there are patents where you are currently working in research and you have the idea, but you haven't tested the idea. And you know that once you do the experiment, you will go for a full patent, because then you know the ideas will be more consolidated as you move forward. So what you do in the provisional patent is that typically when you are within a company, you have your own company. You actually file provisional because your team is working in that line, and you know in 1 year the idea will be very consolidated. So before 1 year is finished, you actually basically make a more consolidated claim and practice. But if you are an individual inventor, you have an idea, I think I would say that you go for a full throttle, full utility patent, because you know that you are trying to raise funding. Now, if you're trying to raise funding, provisional patent doesn't hold much
No.
value actually. So in those cases, you have to go for a full utility. We call full patent in technical term is called utility patent. So basically, you got the full utility. Yeah, go ahead. I'm just like giving you the cap.
And that's a good point actually. Definitely. Thanks, Viplav. So grant and maintenance I just mentioned, and life of the patent is 20 years from the earliest application date. That means if you are going by the provisional route, the day you file the provisional from there, it will be counted 20 years maximum life of a US or Indian patent or anywhere in the world, because now most of the countries are under the PCT obligation, so they have to follow this rule. An Indian patent part, not much different from the India. There is also a provisional and not utility. It's called the provisional patent and non-provisional patent. So final patent, as Bipla mentioned, that final after you have the data, you have the figure, you have the schematic tables with the data comparison, is called the final patent. Is called here in India is non-provisional, and the first filing with the idea is called the provisional. So is the
by the way, Taruk, one thing I would like to mention that is, many people ask me that their invention, and it happens with most of the deep tech invention, market is in US, not in India, but let's say it's invented in IITs, right?
Yeah.
So they want to know like how to file US patent. So the rule is, and I'm telling you, this is a government law with some exception. That is, since you are a US Indian citizen, if you are an Indian citizen working in India, you have to file it in India first. And then you can file it in US within 1 year. That's the way you file it in US. First file in India, first file in US. So if you are in IIT or if you are in any of the Indian institute or any Indian company, even if that company is headquartered in US, because the geography is in India, by law, you have to file it in India and then you file it in US in 1 year. Now, can there be exception to the law? Yes, you still can file directly to the US, but for that, you have to take an exception. You have to appeal and get an exception from Indian Patent Office, which takes 1-2 years by the time your patent idea is gone, right? So the only practical way, if you are an Indian citizen working in India, you have to file it in India, then only you can file it in US or whichever the territory. Most of the time it is US. Go ahead.
I will add the 2 points. Correctly, you mentioned that if you are working in India, Indian soil, if there is at least one Indian citizen, even your company is in the US, you can have the 2 way. One, actually, you can apply for the FFL, that means foreign filing license, within the 6, and after the foreign filing license you get, you can file in US. But as you mentioned, that it is a delaying, so that better to file in India first, and within 6 weeks, after 6 weeks, actually, you are entitled to file the same patent in US.
Yeah, but you still get the same priority date of India. Keep it in mind, your priority date remains same.
That's why the all is about that priority filing or provisional filing. That means if provisional filing will be your date of invention earlier in US before 2005. Date of invention you can prove by your lab notebook, your actually that experimental book, as well as your record book of your invention. But after the 2005, what is changed in India, in US, in all the countries, your first provisional filing or non-provisional filing, whatever the route, that will be your date of invention. Is very clear. Okay.
Go ahead.
So complete and published as usual for the US is after 18 months from the earliest priority date. But there is a difference between the Indian and US patent law, because in US, moment actually you apply for the patent and submit all the documents, examination will start after the publication. But in India, you have to file a request for examination called the RFE, request for examination, in the form 18 within 31 months, and then only the examination will start. That means if you don't follow the date and the time, your patent will be published, and after that sometime 31 months, it will be null and void. That means it will not have the journey towards a grant or any of its action.
So Taruk, I want to share some interesting statistics with you.
Yeah.
Right now in NIRF ranking, every university is ranked. Patent is an important part of that. Like the universities are filing how many patents. So there are universities like Lovely University, Galgoti University. In India, there's no shortage of this kind of wonderful universities that are now coming into scanner. Some of them have filed 300, 400, 500 patent, and after that, 98% of them are defunct. They just did it just to get NIRF ranking. Nothing followed, nothing granted, nothing happened.
Yeah, definitely. Because one thing, if you leave it like that, it will die like this.
Yeah,
And
but just to let, okay, go ahead. Next one. Okay.
so publication and review are same thing. That if you raise the request for the examination, it will generally take the 6 months to exam. But in the scenario, even I've seen my experience that it may take the 1 to 2 years even to get the examination report out. After that, it will be fast examination report and reply to the examination report. And after that, ultimately, it's going to the grant. It takes almost 3 to 4 years, people say here, but I have seen the 5 to 6 years. That means you are losing 5 to 6 years from the date of your priority before the grant. And only after that, you will get the granted patent. And your entire patent life of 20 years coming down to the 15 or 14 years where you actually enjoy your patent right.
Go ahead, Tarek. Next one. Yeah.
Okay. Since the US versus India, the goal and different checkpoints. So that I mentioned that provisional, non-provisional is same. Deadline is about the 12 months between the provisional, non-provisional, publication 18 months. Examination trigger is for India, not for US. Automatically it is examined. After grant, there is a difference. After grant, maintenance is only 3 times have to pay in US. 3.5 years, that means from the application date. 7.5 years, 11.5 years. But for India, third year, that means third year means second anniversary from the Indian patent application. Every year you have to pay the patent continuation or renewal fee, and it will increase slowly from 800 rupees to a much amount. And definitely both are the patent are 20 years of the lifetime from earlier patent date. And as I mentioned that patent drafter, suppose actually you have the invention, it is a novel, and you go to the patent drafter. What the drafter needs, what actually information you will share with the drafter to make a patent draft and apply it through him or her to apply for a patent in India or US. That means technical pack, what you think that what examination resolved, what solution it works, and also sketch, data, and figure, ultimately to prove the invention. We call it in our language RFPA. RFPA stands for the request for patent application. And RFPA stands and contains all of this information that I mentioned, technical pack. And second thing, patent drafter will ask, okay, I've got your technical pack. I'm satisfied with the invention and satisfied with all the justification. Now tell me, who is the owner of the patent? I think, Biplab, you have started with a very good question that who is the owner, myself or a university? So who are the inventor? That means who actually done the work is the inventor. But if there is an employer contract like that public company or universities, then the assignment by the signing in the first day, what I do assignment to whatever I will invent, it will go to my company. Whatever I will invent, go to my university. That means university or actually the companies are true owner of the patent, though you are an inventor. There is a difference between the inventor and the owner. An owner in patent language called assignee. And strategic.
Right. So this is exactly what I would say. Even the people who heard of the word patent and have the patent, they don't understand. So there are a lot of people who are owning the patent from the university. The law professor who has a patent, but the university is owning that. A lot of workers who are actually are inventor, but actually their companies are owning that. And I'm telling you, for your making money purpose, those are useless. Universities are not useless because university can still license to you. But like the few days back, there was a lady who called me and she says that me and my husband are going to open a big company. We have a big ideas. I said that what you're doing to raise the money and protecting your intellectual property. He says, okay, my husband and me have applied for a NIH grant and once NSF grant. I said that the grant, did you apply the grant from your LLC, your company, and from the university? I said, no. He says that you got it wrong. My husband is working in the university as a researcher. He has applied for this $3 million grant. Once we have that, we'll be able to make a lot of patent. I say, you are foolish. because your
Yeah.
husband has applied as a researcher from the university, means grant will come to university, all the patent will go to the university. So even if your husband has all the ideas, he's not going to benefit much from that. He can benefit a little bit as much as the university allows, but he's not going to benefit from that directly. See, most of these people I do see, even in Indians, they don't have that basic concept that why the what is called property right, what is called intellectual property right.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. That is another day of the discussion, I will say.
No,
So
so basically, if you have an idea, you have to be the owner of that idea. If your university or the company is the owner of the idea, they own it, you own nothing.
simply because
Right.
in India they are providing you the salary, that's why maybe only simple answer.
No, I mean, it's the same thing in US too. I mean, US still people are smarter, but many of the Indian got smarter, but many of them are not. Go ahead.
Yeah. Cut story from short. That strategy pack, it means now come the question that where we apply first in US or India or both, depending upon where you practice your invention, where your customer is, because patent is a territory based. One thing we miss that. That means if we apply for an Indian patent and granted, that means your patent right will be in India only. But if you have a customer, you want to sell the patent in US, you have to also apply for the US patent within 1 year, or US first and India second, it will be also 1 year. So the vice versa. And also depending upon your competitions, your budget for filing, process renewals, all are interrelated. So this is the filing step one, and then entire system. That means
yeah, Tarok, I think even if you, as much as you discuss again, people have to come to
yes.
people like you or other you. I know that even the most experienced people can't maintain that. So they have to. But by the way, one thing I have to tell you, in US, actually, you can open your own patent account. You can go to USPTO and you can make your POSE account, meaning you can file. So in US, actually, patent filing is a little bit cheaper. Surprise, surprise, but it's cheaper than India. Because you can actually, if an inventor can file for his own patent. In US, in India, you need a patent agent, must. You cannot file for your own. I don't think the process filing is allowed in India, right? I mean, you still have to go to the Indian patent agent.
No, you can file by your own, but problem is that it is a little bit critical thing. So that filing by as an inventor, if you don't know the rule of the Form 1, Form 3, Form 2, so
No,
it's
but
a difficult.
that problem is that they're in US too, right? Because the people usually appoint a company like you to fill up those forms, but they actually own because I mean they can still operate to their own process account, meaning their own account instead of operating to the lawyers, which actually is a lot more expensive.
Yeah, but in India, generally it's filed through a patent agent or attorney who has the number and access to the Indian Patent Office and have the right to file this patent. So this way it happens, and definitely per se is not much in India. Definitely trademark you can file. I have seen, but though it's allowed that you can file your own patent, but mainly the inventors is not like me. Inventors are mainly the scientists only. So
right. No, in US it's same thing, but US process filing is relatively much more easier.
Yes,
process filing
exactly.
is more relatively easier than India. That's what I figured out, that in US has made it. So anyhow, so Tarok, is there any more slide, and then we can conclude probably?
No, I think many of slide, but it's not much. If you see that, not much important. I will say this slide is important because I mentioned about the US filing and India filing. So there is another route by the PCT filing. That means PCT complete the expansion of the abbreviation PCT as per the Paris Convention Treaty. So that what happened that you can file either India from an US PCT. That means it is not a patent application, but it's called a PCT application. That means in patent application kind, you apply your invention to the PCT and you designate all the countries in the PCT application. So within 30 months from the first application date, you can designate, okay, I will file in India, in US, in France, in Germany, so that after 30 months, actually, it will go to the designated countries like the Germany, like France.
I have a question regarding PCT. I think I did 6 PCT and I found it to be wastage of money. I tell you why. So counter me if you can.
Okay.
So typically, if you don't do PCT, you have a 1 year. Let's say you have filed it in India, then you have 1 year to file it in US, China, wherever you want to protect.
Yeah.
all PCT does is that PCT come from actually WTO GATS
Yes.
agreement that there's a
Why?
one
Why? Why?
petition. So instead of 1 year, PCT extended to 2.5 years, and it's pretty expensive actually. So basically, instead of 1 year, you are getting a 2.5 year to file into other country to operate. So tell me why that should be, why should I do that instead of, because if 1 year is default, with the PCT, all you are getting is instead of 1 year, it become 2.5 years. So why that 1.5 year extra? I want to take so much of trouble.
Two reasons. One is actually suppose you in your particularly technical domain or in invention, to sharp the invention to get the more data, one is not sufficient. Second thing, if you have the 7 countries, suppose that you are going to file from US 7 countries within 1 year, how many times will actually run around France? You have to apply separately to the France, you have to separate to Germany, separate to India, separate to China, and all this actually separately you have to do putting actually several effort. Sometimes they need the translation and all these things about. But here in the PCT, automatically where actually it is designated, it will go to that country, and then just you have to fill up the form and give the money to them. That means in the China to filing for the non-professional this money, in India this money, but you don't have to summarily run on and on within the very short time to all the countries. Suppose that I will file the 10 countries in a year. So it will be a mammoth task to go around the 10 countries, check their process, and ultimately how it will separately. Then every time you have to cite my US original publication or application. Okay, I want to link this as a priority application to my Chinese. I want to link my US original application to India.
I think what Tarak I've said that this is not relevant because you're talking about the small inventor here. PCT is important when you have a MNC operating in
exactly. I'm telling that.
Yeah, so we don't want to discuss this because we are talking about solving the problem of the small inventors. Go to the next one.
Yeah, this is a final. I will not go beyond this. So what is the common mistake? What should be a no? What will not do? First thing, we go back to our first 10 minutes discussion that disclosing too early. We will not go for the public talks or papers or any type of the communication in the public domain before you draft and apply for the patent, even the provisional patent. Provisional patent actually, before that, we should not disclose. After the provisional patent, you get a date so that you can disclose anything. Provided you do your non-provisional within 12 months. Thin provisional, that means writing provisional, as we mentioned, that it is easy and without claim we can write. But it should be well meticulously constitute application. Otherwise, if you're not actually surrounded by all the information, minimum information, later on, if you file the non-provisional, by chance it gets out of the scope of the provisional, the patent may be cancelled. So that actually we need to do. And then missing the deadline, because I mentioned that there are so many deadlines. That means 18 months from the timings, renewals, maintenance. So meticulously, we have to file all the missing deadlines. We have to follow and communicate with the examiner or patent office with the requisite fee, form, everything. Missing that will cost the patent to be null and void, definitely. Wrong name of the ownership. That happens many times. I've seen that patent, there is obviously an Indian patent and US patent also under different section. Who is the owner of the patent? Like that, you also know, Biplab, that during our IIT days, many of the faculty used to do, okay, I have one paper and I will give another 5 students' name in the same paper as the author. Patent is not like that. There is a definition in the US and India. That means if a person have a direct contribution to a claim of the patent, he is the inventor. So inventorship is very important.
That is there, but I think we're talking about here small individual things. It happens in the company environment very well.
Still,
so it's a very good mention that you did it. So let's. I think this thing is getting larger. Nobody will be listening to the long thing. But I was really trying to focus on what it is for the IT people. See, remember these things. All these nitty-gritty details, most of the people don't need to remember. They have to come back to people like you who are experienced. I wanted to give them an initial introduction where basically they understand why the patenting process is valid, what are the plus and minus and stuff like that. As much as you know that basically no matter how much and how many seminar you give, people have to come to you for this kind of advice. Nobody will pick it up. So it never happens. I mean, it's in my own experience. So I think the main pick it up is that for the people is mostly for, I'm mostly addressing to many of the people who are losing their job in IT, is that There is a way, there is a lot of way, because what is happening is right now the intelligence is abundant. AI is abundant. And 99% of that intelligence, see, previously what happened is for intelligence, you have to hire very expensive people. Today, you have a $200 pro model, you have a $200 Anthropic top model, and you have a lot of intelligence in your hand. But idea doesn't come from the AI. Idea is yours, because AI don't know the market, you know the market. So this is opening up a huge amount of potential that you can actually right now file for patent, make a startup, make a lot of stuff. And people are not realizing that this is a possibility because they are not into it. So they're afraid, they've not seen it. But I tell you that people, let's say you go to Silicon Valley, you go to Bangalore, you go to Pune, you meet so many people in your social circle, you get to know it. Now, there are, of course, locations in the world where this is not a culture. All right. Say, for example, if you look at India, 90, more or less 60% startup happens in Bangalore. It's a very highly concentrated area, right? And then you have a Noida, Gurgaon, Bangalore, and Calcutta even doesn't contribute to 1% of startup, just to let you know, I mean, the cities. So there's no culture in at all. Now, people have force right now. There's no choice. And this is not going to go away, and people have to change, and this change is not taught in university, because university professors are not, I mean, they're also becoming outdated right now also, because they have nothing to do. I mean, let's say there's a good professor of chemistry. What his knowledge is good for right now? Only to guide you AI, because AI already knows all of his knowledge. The same thing with the knowledge of physics and mathematics, right? It's already proven that AI is becoming the best mathematician or best physicist or best chemist, or at least if not the best of the, some of the top of the best. So so I think this is a good seminar, and I'll say that people can contact me or Taruk. I'll give my WhatsApp number, and then I'll forward it to Taruk. Not an issue, but it's not an isolated problem. You have to think it in terms of market, commercialization, patent, money raising, and many other fields. And as I told you, I'll be doing 4 other seminars for fundraising, for everything, and I'll bring the expert in all the field. I have some semi-expertise in all the field because I kind of be the mentor of all. And so that you guys, your life can be much more smoother. So thank you, Taruk.
Thank you.
Thank you. So what I'll do is that I'm basically right now stop recording, and don't go away.